Burt Reynolds finally breaks silence on Clint Walker. For decades, two names stood tall in the pantheon of Hollywood's toughest leading men: Burt Reynolds and Clint Walker. Both embodied the rugged, charismatic American hero who could charm audiences one moment and dominate the screen the next. Yet despite their overlapping careers and similar personas, Burt Reynolds rarely spoke publicly about his feelings toward Clint Walker. Burton Leon Reynolds Jr. was born on February 11, 1936, in Lansing, Michigan. The son of a police chief, young Burt moved with his family to Riviera Beach, Florida, where he discovered his passion for football. At Florida State University, he was a promising halfback with dreams of going pro. But fate had other plans. A devastating knee injury shattered those dreams and left Reynolds searching for a new direction. A teacher's encouragement led him to the stage, and that single spark ignited what would become one of Hollywood's most celebrated careers. The 1950s were rough for Reynolds. He hustled through small parts in shows like Gunsmoke and Riverboat. His rugged looks and deep voice made him a natural for westerns, but Hollywood saw him as just another handsome face trying to make it big. And then there was Clint Walker, already a legend. Standing at 6'6", built like an oak tree, with a voice that seemed to rumble from the mountains themselves, Walker dominated television as the star of Cheyenne. He was everything a cowboy was supposed to be, and he was Warner Brothers' biggest TV star. In his own words, Reynolds admitted, "Burt Reynolds, voice recording or recreation." In my early days, Clint Walker was already a legend to guys like me. I was still trying to make a name for myself, and there was Clint, this mountain of a man with a voice that sounded like it came straight from the Rockies. I remember watching him on Cheyenne and thinking, now that's what a cowboy is supposed to look like. The young, struggling actor couldn't help but feel a pang of envy. While Burt was scraping by with guest appearances, Clint had already achieved what every actor dreamed of: stardom, respect, and an undeniable screen presence. I'll be honest, I envied him a little back then. He had what we all wanted: strength, dignity, and this quiet confidence that didn't need to shout. But Burt Reynolds wasn't going to stay in anyone's shadow for long. His breakout came in the early 1970s with Deliverance, a film that showcased his raw intensity and emotional depth. The movie was both a critical and commercial success, proving Reynolds was far more than just charm and good looks. The 1970s became the decade of Burt Reynolds. With blockbusters like Smokey and the Bandit, The Longest Yard, and Hooper, he became the quintessential American movie star. His trademark mustache, devilish grin, and confident swagger defined an era. He was approachable, real, and audiences loved him for it. Reynolds was now a household name, commanding the screen with a presence that rivaled anyone in Hollywood, including Clint Walker. But even at the height of his fame, something about Walker stuck with him. As Reynolds' star rose, his tone toward Walker began to shift from envy to something deeper: genuine respect and admiration. Clint wasn't just muscle and charm. He was one of the kindest men I ever met in this business. Hollywood can chew you up and spit you out, but Clint never lost his decency. He didn't play the game the way others did. He stayed true to himself, and that's something I always admired. Narrator. Both men shared something crucial: independence. They were rebels in their own right, refusing to be controlled by Hollywood's machine. But their approaches were different. We both had that stubborn streak. We didn't like being told what to do, but Clint had a calm about him. Where I might blow up or joke my way through a bad situation, Clint would just look you in the eye and say what needed to be said. That's power, the quiet kind. For years, fans dreamed of seeing these two titans share the screen. The chemistry would have been electric. The smooth-talking Reynolds alongside the stoic, powerful Walker. It seemed like a natural fit. So why didn't it happen? There were a few times the idea came up. We joked about doing a western together. He'd be the straight arrow hero, and I'd be the smart-mouthed deputy who gets in trouble. It would have been a riot, but timing was never right. I was always shooting something like Smokey and the Bandit while he was off doing another adventure picture. Still, I think audiences would have loved to see us, side by side. The near misses became part of Hollywood lore. Two schedules that never quite aligned. Two careers moving in parallel, but never intersecting on screen. And then there was the question fans love to debate. Who was the real toughest man in Hollywood? Burt Reynolds, with a grin. People love to compare. They'd say, who'd win in a fight, Burt Reynolds or Clint Walker? Well, I'll tell you the truth. If Clint wanted to, he could have snapped me like a twig. But he wouldn't. That wasn't who he was. He didn't need to prove anything to anyone. His presence alone said it all. Despite never working together, the two did cross paths socially over the years at award shows and charity events. And every encounter left an impression on Reynolds. We met a handful of times over the years. Every time I saw him, he greeted me like an old friend. No ego, no competition, just genuine warmth. You don't forget that in this business. He'd ask me how I was doing, how my folks were, and he meant it. You don't get that kind of sincerity from many people in Hollywood. As Reynolds grew older and reflected on his long career, his thoughts turned more frequently to what defined his generation of actors. And Clint Walker represented something he felt was disappearing from Hollywood. Guys like Clint Walker represented something that's missing now. He was a man's man, but also a gentleman. He didn't need scandals or headlines. He let his work and his character speak for him. That's rare. I think we all wanted to be a little like Clint, strong, decent, and unshakable. These weren't just words from one actor about another. They were the reflections of a man who had lived through the same battles, weathered the same storms, and understood what it took to maintain integrity in an industry that often demanded compromise. Reynolds himself had faced box office disappointments, health problems, and even bankruptcy in the 1980s and 90s. But like Walker, he remained resilient, returning to the screen again and again with humor and humility. His comeback role in Boogie Nights earned him an Academy Award nomination and reminded everyone of his talent. But through it all, that image of Clint Walker as the unshakable cowboy stayed with him. Clint Walker was one of a kind. The screen lost a real cowboy when he left us, and the world lost a good man. I was proud to know him, even just a little. And if there's a heaven, I like to think he's up there riding tall in the saddle, just like he always did. Pause. The truth is, I admired him more than I ever said. On September 6th, 2018, Burt Reynolds passed away at the age of 82 from a heart attack at Jupiter Medical Center in Florida. His death marked the end of an era in Hollywood. Clint Walker had passed away just over a year earlier, on May 21st, 2018, at the age of 90. In the span of just a few months, the world lost two of its greatest Western heroes. Visual, tribute images, fans' reactions, memorial footage. Reynolds' final words about Walker revealed what many had suspected but never confirmed. Beneath the surface of Hollywood glamour and competition, there existed genuine respect and admiration between two men who understood what it meant to be icons of their time. They were never rivals in the bitter sense. They were brothers in arms, separated by circumstance, but united in their dedication to their craft and their refusal to compromise who they were. Visual, final side-by-side shots of both men in their prime. Burt Reynolds' silence about Clint Walker wasn't born from animosity or competition. It was the silence of respect, the kind of quiet admiration one legend holds for another. And when he finally spoke, his words reminded us that true greatness recognizes true greatness.
took time for Hollywood to see him as more than just